At 330 Chestnut Street in East Longmeadow lies an abandoned factory. Built in the early 1940s at the beginning of U.S. involvement in the Second World War, it was run by Pratt & Whitney and used to produce aircraft for the war effort. The factory in its heyday employed over 4,000 people. After the war, the 44-acre property was then bought out by Package Machinery Co. Package Machinery ran successfully afterward for several decades, leading all the way into the Reagan administration. However, the factory was eventually decommissioned. Now it sits here taking up space, often considered an eyesore by many.
Looking at the outside of the property, it's clear that there's a massive amount of space to work with. However, no one is allowed inside without explicit permission due to the area being considered high risk by authorities. For example, it's believed that the entire basement is flooded with dangerous high voltage wiring running throughout the facility. The building is also compromised structurally, meaning that simply entering the building is a huge safety risk. The cost of demolition is an estimated $8 million, both due to the sheer size of the property and the workplace hazards associated with such an undertaking. Instead, some have proposed repurposing the factory. Ideas include changing the property into a housing development, which would generate high amounts of revenue for the town. Additionally, some have suggested creating an entire plaza development, complete with housing, stores, and food. However, before any of these ideas can go into effect, the town must rezone the entire property from an industrial zone to a mixed-use zone.
On January 25, 2018, the Town Council was presented with an amendment which would allow them to create a bylaw which would let them change the zoning of the area. In order to codify this amendment, as per the Town Council, the affirmative vote of a majority of the full council membership, except as otherwise provided by the general laws or this charter, shall be necessary for the final passage of any bylaw.
What we're discussing here is a bylaw. We don't have a project yet before us, so we need to distinguish between the specifics of a project, which at this point is speculation, and the bylaw itself, which is the enabling legislation.
After years of debate, the town adopted the bylaw in a meeting on December 8, 2020. However, before the proposal could be made to change this specific property to mixed use, the pandemic hit, which stunted all progress for the next year. As time went on, developers became frustrated with the pace of the town on the issue, with many abandoning the project.
As part of our investigation, we reached out to John Tykina, the head of the M&M Realty chapter in Piscataway, New Jersey. M&M Realty have proposed their ideas to the town many times over the years, but to no avail. The company have developed many similar areas into housing/retail zones, all of which have produced ample tax revenue for the towns they reside in. However, we soon learned that Mr. Tykina no longer worked for the company, and unfortunately, this ended up being the case most of the time when we would attempt outreach. A group would either get no response, or be told that the individual couldn't help us. This, while frustrating, ultimately was the inspiration for this project, as the intent was not originally to raise awareness about the property, but rather attempt to further the development plans proposed.
Today, progress on the development is moving at a snail's pace, if at all. The project rarely gets brought up in town meetings as of late, and when it is, there is typically little to no new information about it. This, combined with a lack of communication by the developers, inspired us to raise awareness on this issue. By educating the community about the history, use, and potential future of the project, we hope to spur some government action. Compiled now are the wishes of local citizens and what they hope to see done with this property.
It's an eyesore right now, of course, so it's just going to be interesting to see what goes forward.
So that factory used to actually be fields where kids in the rec department used to play soccer and different types of games, and ever since those fields stopped being used, the entire property became condemned and unused, and now it's quite the eyesore.
I suppose rather than a development or some sort of, housing development or anything like a mixed use, I would rather see it as more of office space, just because I feel like there is already quite a bit of traffic in that area, especially with the bike path being right there. And there's also a water pumping station, I believe, on that property. So as an office building, I think it would be probably a better idea.
I would love to see that land be used for the town, whether that is a community center as a structured building, and you could sprinkle in some different athletic fields, whether they're for the rec department soccer teams or baseball diamonds and such. There is a lot of space there, and I'm hoping that we could use that space to benefit the community. The rec department that we have right now is sufficient, but I think we could push ourselves to have a little bit more offered for the public of East Longmeadow.
Hopefully our town leaders can come up with a good plan.